Okay, hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to another podcast episode of Steven Shows Myah Movies.
I'm Steven.
Steven
That's
is the
me.
one who knows movies.
I do. I know them all. Every single one.
Yep, he's a movie buff. He's been watching movies since he was a kid.
Like 4 years old.
Yep.
-4, I mean.
Yep. In the womb.
I don't know how that works.
In the womb.
Yeah.
And I'm Myah. I don't watch movies. I don't really know any of the movies, so Steven's showing me
Every movie ever.
all the movies that are like considered classics or like really good.
Yep.
Because I don't know. I don't really watch movies.
Which
so.
is real sad. How are you living?
I don't know. But now I have Steven to show me the movies, so
That's true.
And then we decided we're gonna film ourselves talking about it because Steven knows movies and I don't. So we're gonna talk about the movies that we see.
Mm-hmm.
And on this episode, we're going to be talking about Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh, before we begin.
Oh.
These episodes could be whatever, however. They could be chronological or not, because we've seen like a few movies already.
Yeah.
So we have like a backlog of stuff. So these episodes might be out of order.
Right. And we saw Weekend at Bernie's like maybe a month ago. So
yeah, it's been a while. We're
going to be thinking about it.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
I just live it.
Yeah. Steven knows all these movies like by heart, but I just rewatched the trailer to refresh. So we'll see what we remember.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this episode we're going to talk about Weekend at Bernie's, which is a comedy.
Bernie's.
It's a comedy. It's pretty hilarious.
It's pretty stupid too.
I forget when
the concept.
The concept is pretty hilarious, actually. Let's see.
I want to know like how the meeting for the pitch went. All right, so we got this dead guy, and people pretend he's not. That was the pitch.
Yep, that sums up the movie pretty well. It was released in 1989.
Wow, 89.
And the comedy still holds up, I think, personally. I think it's a lot of physical comedy, which I think is kind of a timeless comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But the plot of the movie is these two, like, low-ranking guys. They work at at an insurance company, I think.
So, yeah.
Their names are Larry and Richard.
Larry and Richard.
And
Larry's the fun one. Richard's the boring one.
Yeah. And they are working on a weekend, and they find out that the company, someone's been stealing from the company or like embezzling money from the company. So they have a meeting with the CEO, and they bring it up to him, and the CEO's like, "Thanks, boys, you did a really good job." And then as soon as they leave, he's like, "Shit," because the CEO's been the one that's been embezzling the money.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he invites them to his beach house for the weekend. So
the CEO's name is Bernie, by the way.
Oh yeah, Bernie.
If you didn't know.
Yeah, so
I haven't seen this movie.
Bernie CEO asks the boys to come over for the weekend so they can run the numbers again or something. They can show it, and the boys jump at the chance because
they're seen as heroes.
And it's also blazing hot out, so they really want to escape the city.
Yeah, because they're on the roof and they step on all like the
there's this nasty scene where this guy's like he's going through all like the papers, like because I guess the way the computer prints it out is like a big fat stack of papers and with all these numbers. Yeah. And he was like going through, but they were on the roof of this apartment building, and there's all this, I guess like the tar or the asphalt or whatever was melted. And the guy, like, his hands were all up in it, and then he was, like, messing with the papers, and I was like, oh, my God. And then when they go into the meeting with the CEO, he hands the papers to the CEO with all this tar on them, and the CEO's like, the heck?
He's like, it's computer ink, sir.
Yeah, that's computer ink, sir. And the guy's like, yeah, okay.
Okay, sure.
But then they leave, and the guy's like, he ends up having dinner with, like, the mafia or something. Bernie, the CEO, has dinner with the mafia, and he's like, I need you guys to kill someone. I know you haven't killed in a while, but, like, I need you to kill these guys because they figured out, like...
That he's embezzling money.
And so they're like, okay. But then the wife of the mafia boss...
Or girlfriend, I think.
Or girlfriend. Yeah, the girlfriend of the mafia boss is, like, playing footsie with him under the table. And then later...
gets a bit too much.
Yeah, and then he leaves the restaurant, and then we see him making out with this... We see Bernie CEO making out
Bernie CEO
making out with a mafia boss girlfriend, And then the mafia boss is like, well, I'm not stupid. I know what's happening. So actually, we're going to kill Bernie, and we're not going to kill the two guys. We're going to kill Bernie instead because he's sleeping with my girlfriend. So that's kind of like the beginning of the movie. And so they all go to the beach house, and Bernie's like setting up. He's there before the boys, and he's setting it up their death. Like he has like a syringe with drugs or something. Like
he's like writing a note.
Yeah, he's writing like a suicide note, getting ready for the boys, and then one of the mafia like thugs comes in.
I think the assassin himself.
Yeah, like the assassin guy comes in, and he's like Bernie's like, what are you doing here? You're early. The boys haven't arrived yet. I told you to come at this time. And then the guy's like, yeah, okay. And then he just like, I forget how he killed him. Did you shoot him? He puts
like a syringe thing.
Oh yeah, he like has lethal injection of some kind. Yeah. And so.
And then he just sits down.
Yeah, and then he just puts Bernie down in the chair that he's in, and then he leaves. And then the boys come, and they get to the island, and they figure out what house is Bernie's, because Bernie's not there to greet them. And then they like knock on the door, and then the fun one, I forget his name again. Larry's like, oh, we're guests, and so he just opens the door and walks right in. And they're like, oh, Bernie, like, I guess they're like, where are you, Bernie? And then they go to the office, and they see Bernie there, and they're like, hey, and they're like drinking champagne, and they're like, yeah, you want a sip? And then Richard's like, he's dead, and he's freaking out, and they're confused. I guess they don't notice at this point. They don't see like the suicide note that.
No, that's all like hidden in a
briefcase. It's all hidden. Yeah, they don't see any of that, so they think that he overdosed on drugs, I guess.
Yeah, because there was something in that was planted into his pocket.
Mm-hmm. And he did have like a wad of pills in his pocket.
Did he?
That was his own. Yeah, because remember in the party scene, like the girl's like, "Oh yeah, Bernie, you got what I'm looking for."
That's the whatever. That's what was planted. She just happens to take that.
Oh, it was. I thought that was his.
No.
Okay, well.
Because he drops it on the table, and then he puts it in his shirt pocket, and then later on, she comes by and grabs from the shirt pocket.
Yeah, you're right. So the guy's dead, and they're freaking out. But who's the fun one again? Larry's like, well, we're here for the weekend. Like, we might as well. Like, we don't need to report it right away. Like, we should enjoy our time. And Richard's like, no, we gotta call the cops. Mm-hmm. I forget how did Larry convince Richard not to call the cops? I kind of forget.
Everyone started coming into the house.
Oh, yeah. So, apparently, at this island, everybody's always partying all the time, and all the partying ends at Bernie's house. Mm-hmm. He has the house on, like, the top of the hill. Top of the dune. So, like, everybody congregates there. So they're kind of like freaking out, deciding whether or not they want to call the cops or not. And then
just everybody
just shows up.
And they can't do anything about it.
Yeah, they can't do anything about it. But it's funny because there's all this crowd shows up and they're like, oh, hey, Bernie, like, what's up? Yeah. Like, oh. And they don't even notice he's dead.
Yeah, they just think he's drunk.
Because he's like propped up on a couch. Like he's sitting and and he has sunglasses. So it looks like he's just really faded.
Yeah.
And somehow they get away with it. Like no one notices, and they kind of like play around with his body and make it like seem like he's
like waving hi to people or something.
And there's a scene where the girl's like, oh, Bernie, don't you have something for me? And she sits down and she takes drugs from his pocket, and I guess that's what she was looking for. Apparently.
Didn't have it in the first place, but okay.
And then I forget if it was that party scene where that guy kept wanting to buy his like Cadillac golf cart.
Yeah.
And like Bernie like couldn't talk obviously because he's dead. But the guy was thinking, oh, he's like hardballing me, like he's trying to get a better deal. So he kept like bringing the price up, and then like the way that they like moved Bernie's head to make it seem like he was like agreeing or not, and that was funny. But yeah, they basically get away with it for the weekend, or no,
as
for
the name suggests.
For that party they get away with it. Yeah. But then it turns out that Richard wants to call the cops after the party, or like I guess halfway through, I don't even remember, but then he sees like his girl, like his crush. Gwen was coming to the island for the weekend, so then he was like, all right, like we can wait, we can push it back, because he wants to make a move on Gwen. And then I guess they get really drunk and then they fall asleep and then they wake up and then
Richard and Gwen go for a walk on the beach, and they go to the lighthouse. And then...
Was it that night that they went to the lighthouse?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because then he falls down the lighthouse after staring into the light for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
And then they're walking along the beach again. And he's all limping and stuff. And then they
they're
lay down on the beach or whatever.
Yeah, they were making out on the beach.
Yeah.
And then Bernie's body, like, washes ashore because I think they pushed his body off the balcony onto, like, the sand. Because they're like, oh, yeah, like, let's just enjoy the night. And they shove Bernie out.
I think, like, accidentally or something.
Yeah, it was accidentally. And they're like,
and it just falls
yeah.
over.
And they're like, okay, we'll just leave him there for now. But then the tide comes in and they pull his body out.
Oh, yeah, because that's when they looked down.
Yeah. And he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And then, so Richard and Gwen are on the beach. And then they're like, they're kissing, and then all of a sudden, like, he turns and he sees, like, Bernie wash up right next to them, and he's like, ah!
Like driftwood.
And then I forget, he's like, the way he, like, I don't even know how he convinces Gwen. He's like, you deserve better than this. Like,
no,
the
this
beach.
isn't right.
This isn't right.
You need candles.
You need romance, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, he somehow, like, gets Bernie out of there. I don't even know how he did that. Or I think he pushed her to, like, the house, and then he got Larry, and then they got him. Yeah. And then that was pretty funny. And then I guess I don't really remember, but they party really hard and then they wake up like all drunk or Richard wakes up and then
Richard goes to sleep. He has a little towel as a blanket.
And then
snooze.
He wakes up to Larry having Bernie propped
pool.
up.
Yeah.
At the pool playing like Monopoly.
Yeah.
And he like strings it up. He like rigs a system so like there's like a string he can pull and it raises Bernie's hand and it looks like he's waving.
I have it. How are you?
Because Bernie's super well known on the island, so everyone's always like, oh, hey, Bernie. Like, what's up, Bernie? So then he has it rigged, so he's like waving hello. And he's playing Monopoly with himself, basically.
It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. And then Richard comes out and he's like, no, we have to
call the police
We have to call the police, blah, blah, blah. And then somehow, like, Gwen rings the doorbell or something, I think. Is that what happens?
I think so, yeah. Because she wants to thank Bernie for her job, her internship.
Yeah, because she also works at the same company that they work at.
Mm-hmm.
And...
we completely missed the date.
Oh, yeah. Okay, back to the beginning. So, they show Bernie, like, the results.
They show Bernie the
embezzlement that was happening. And then... I don't remember if it was before or after, but Richard makes a move on this girl in the office that he had a crush on, Gwen.
Yeah, and he just goes, my aunt is very sick.
Yeah, my aunt is very sick. And somehow, like, that charmed her enough or something.
The clumsy approach.
Yeah. And then, so they end up going on a date where they go to, like a Chinese restaurant
something
or something?
like that. I think so, yeah.
And Richard.
So many names.
He lives with his parents. But so Gwen wants to go back to his place, and he's like, okay. So then he goes, like, he pretends like his house, like
he pretends it's
his house. And then Gwen's like, well, why'd you take me to that restaurant if you own a house in the city?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't even remember what his answer was.
It's just a bunch of lies.
Yeah, he just kept lying, basically. And then his dad comes out, like, in his underwear while they're, like, making out in the dark. And then she's like, who's that? And he's like, that's just my butler. Like, don't worry. And then Dad's like, huh?
He's like, could you lay out my blue suit for tomorrow morning? Mm-hmm. And Dad's like, what if I lay you out?
Yeah, exactly. It was
and
pretty funny.
Gwen's like, do you let your butler talk to you that way? And then she finds out that it's actually his dad.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's like, oh, how dare you? Don't lie. And runs off.
Oh yeah, she was mad that he lied. And then that's why he wanted a second chance with Gwen when he sees that she's at the island. That's why he's like, oh, I gotta make things right. So that's why. And then, so after that...
After the wake up,
first
at the
party,
Monopoly pool.
Yeah, the Monopoly, the pool.
Gwen
comes in and tries to thank Lomax. Lomax?
Yeah.
Bernie?
That was
done.
That was his last name.
Bernie Lomax. So he tries to thank Lomax, but then Richard is like, no, you don't understand. He's dead.
Yeah.
And he tries to convince Gwen that he's dead. And this is like the one time he's actually not lying.
Mm-hmm.
And Gwen is really confused. And so he's like, yeah, let me show you. He's
out
on the deck.
He goes outside to Larry.
And he goes out. And
he's just not there.
He's not there. And
Bernie
it turns out
knows.
Larry, like, shoved him off the balcony again. Somehow this guy's body is not, like, all beat up. Because, like, he's been thrown off of surfaces. He's been in water. Thrown around.
In seawater.
And so...
Okay, first off, how did the tide get up to his house to get him into the ocean?
Yeah, that's not possible. Unless that... Because if that was happening, that house's foundation is, like, not pretty... Not gonna be around for much longer.
Yeah.
But, I forget what happens after that. Like... Gwen storms off because she thinks he's lying again.
Yep. And then I believe that's when they find out the phone call. Like, they look at the answering machine?
Mm-hmm.
Or no? I forget.
I don't remember what happens. Wow, we're bad. We're bad at this.
Well, either way, they find Bernie underneath. Oh, yeah, because they try to find Bernie, but he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he? He's being covered up with sand by a kid.
Oh, right. Yeah, this kid's burying a dead body, basically.
Yep. He's doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, essentially, Bernie should have been buried much sooner, but this kid's burying him. But then they yell at the kid, and then they unbury his body. But then, Larry somehow convinces Richard not to call the cops. I don't really remember how. But then they end up finding out that Bernie, was trying to kill them.
I think that's when he was going to call the cops, but he hit, the answering machine or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's when they find out that they're gonna be killed.
Yeah, so basically on the, when Bernie was calling the mafia, or, I don't remember if it was the mafia calling him or what, but he was like, yeah, we need to kill these guys.
Oh, yeah, the assassin was calling him because he just got the island. He was like, hey, I got the island. Oh, where's your house?
And, oh, yeah, and then Bernie was like, yeah, when are you gonna kill these guys? And then the mafia assassin guy was like, don't say that on the phone, you idiot. Yeah. Which it was stupid because it was recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hear about it, and then they find... Oh, this was funny. They find the suicide note, and apparently, Larry is, in the note, Bernie said that Larry was, a cross-dresser or something. He was I don't even remember. And Larry was like, I can't believe he would say that about me. He was gonna, submit this to the public. So that was pretty funny.
I got a reputation to uphold here,
yeah,
Richard.
Yeah, exactly.
Then Richard's like, Larry, nobody's gonna get a sex change, huh?
Yeah.
Weird con thing.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh yeah, right, forgot.
That was funny. And then Richard's like, okay, we don't need to call the cops. We can just enjoy the weekend.
That's when they try and get off the island because they don't want to be killed.
Oh, true.
So they clean up Bernie. I think they go find Bernie after they find the answer machine.
Mm-hmm.
They find him. They clean him all off with a vacuum. And then they take his hair off.
Oh, yeah, they accidentally rip his toupee off, and then they end up stapling it onto his head. And I don't know, how the actor for Bernie, stayed still for all this, or, what?
No idea.
He was very convincing dead body. He
maybe
did not
he was
move.
just dead.
Maybe he was drugged, and they just used his anesthesia body to, move him around or something, because he was very convincing. But... yeah, so they try and escape, and they use Bernie's boat, I think.
They try to... yeah, they use the boat first, because they put him in the wheel thing.
Wait, wasn't there, a car chase with the golf carts?
Yeah.
They steal...
yeah.
They steal... So, supposedly Bernie agreed to sell the golf cart to that guy at the beginning who was trying to get... So then they end up stealing it from him, and the guy's like, hey, I paid for that. And there's a car chase, but it's with golf carts, so it's really lame and not fast at all.
Yeah.
But it seems so intense, and then they end up turning off to the road, and the guy passes them the classic escape maneuver.
Mm-hmm. Just turn around a thing and then come up behind him.
Exactly. And then they end up getting to the boat, and they put Bernie on the boat, and they tie him to the seat. But then Larry doesn't really know how to drive a boat, so they crash into do they crash, or do they, splash a lot of people? Or what it...
Well, they do a lot of swerving and such.
Yeah.
And there's just, a lot of waves and such. But as they get out, they're trying... Richard gets flown off the back because Larry, breaks wrong or something. And then he throws the anchor into a table on another boat.
Oh, the scene where... So they tie Bernie to the chair, or to the seat of the boat, but I guess somehow Bernie falls off the back of the boat, so he's being dragged.
Yeah.
So you know how when you're going tubing and you drag the tube behind the boat?
Mm-hmm.
Replace the tube with Bernie, and that's what it looks like. This guy, like, getting drowned, and they're driving for so long, and he's, like, hitting all these buoys, he's hitting, like, he's, like, flying in the air, like, up and down, and they don't even notice until, like...
And everyone going past is like, Bernie, good job! Yeah. I'm like, what are they talking about?
And they're so confused, and then they finally turn around, and they're like, oh my god, we gotta pull him in! Oh, and then it was funny, because when they were walking... I don't remember if they were walking to Bernie's boat, or if they were trying to get on the ferry to escape or something, but they tied, like, Bernie's shoelaces to each of their shoes.
That's for the ferry, yeah.
And they put his arm over each of their shoulders, so it makes it look like when they bend their legs, Bernie bends his legs.
They're all walking together,
and it looks so realistic. And then, so I guess, like, the mafia person, as he was trying to leave, he saw Bernie, like, being puppeted, and he thought that Bernie was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So then he's like, oh shit, I didn't kill him. So then he tries to come back to kill him. And then what does he do? What was the second death for Bernie?
I think it's later on when the gardener and the house or the landscaper, they come in, and then they, like, throw Bernie off of the side once again, but that's where the assassin is, and he gets dropped onto him. So Bernie's just, like, cuddling this dude.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Bernie gets dropped onto the assassin guy who thinks he's still alive. And then, I guess the way he's dropped makes it seem like he's alive. So the assassin guy thinks he's fighting with, like, an alive Bernie, but it's just a dead body he's fighting with. And so, I guess he chokes Bernie, and he thinks Bernie's actually dead. And then he's like, okay, I'm done. And then he leaves.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait. They go to the ferry first, and then they take the boat. Because the boat loses gas. It runs out of gas.
Yeah.
So then they have to use Bernie as, like, a little flotation device.
His dead body
and swims back to the house.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
And then that's when the gardener and the landscaper comes in, and then Bernie attacks.
Yeah, Bernie.
The assassin.
Yeah. And then... So the assassin thinks he's done, gets on the boat to go. And then I guess that's when they're, like, moving with Bernie, like, they have the shoelaces. So then he's like, wait, I didn't actually kill that guy. And then he comes back with, like, guns. And then Richard, Bernie, and Larry, they're all in the house. And I think Gwen's also there.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Somehow.
Yeah, somehow, I don't know how.
Oh, because she sees them walk back into the house after swimming.
Yeah, and then... The assassin's like, oh my god, how is this guy still alive? I'm gonna really kill him. And so he has, like, all these guns, or just 2 guns or something.
Yeah, he has 2.
And then he goes back into the house and tries to kill Bernie, and, like, he shoots him a bunch of times. But then Gwen and Richard and Larry are still in the house, and they see this happen, so then the mafia guy's like, oh, frick, I have witnesses. So then he tries to kill them.
But he runs out of bullets.
And
he's like, I have the second one.
And then it's, like, a funny, like, mad chase around, and the guy is, like, shooting like crazy. Like, he's shooting so poorly. He is, like, hitting everything but the people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, like, running around to escape, and it's hilarious. Like, they use a lamp and, like, they crash it on his head or something like that. Yeah. I don't even remember. Oh, and it's really funny because Larry's like, oh yeah, like, you take Gwen upstairs and hide, and I'll sacrifice myself to save you guys. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And they run.
And Larry's like, what?
And Larry's like, wait a second, you're supposed to, like,
there's supposed to be some sort of, like, conversation going on.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, whatever. And then he goes down and he, like, distracts the guy, and he disarms him or something, or he runs out of bullets again.
Oh yeah, and he ties him up with, like, the phone line.
Oh yeah, he twists him up in the phone line, and then
he's like, stick him up.
And then he, like, punches him a bunch of times, and then Richard and Gwen come back down, and then he's basically tied up, and then the police come because there's gunshots.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the police finally come.
Oh, and then there's, like, the ending scene where he, like, falls over because he's all tied up. And then Bernie's, like, arm somehow, like, comes around him, and then he's like, how is this guy still alive? Because he thinks Bernie's still alive.
Bernie. And
then he's, like, traumatized, and he basically goes insane.
Yeah, he thinks, has, like, a straitjacket at the end.
Bernie's still alive.
He's still alive. Yeah. He's still alive.
He's still alive. And then, basically, the guys get off scot-free because the police think that this guy shot Bernie like a bajillion times.
Did.
Well, he did, but he shot a dead Bernie.
That's not why he died.
And then, so it was a funny comedy, and it ends up working out for the guys. I think Richard gets Gwen in the end, and then they have a party on the island or something, and then they leave.
Not exactly.
Or something.
Because Bernie is in the on the gurney.
Oh, yeah.
Bernie's on the gurney.
And
then he goes down the pathway at the front of the house because
there's
gets knocked a little bit, so it just heads on down.
Yeah, there's like a ramp, and they're at the top of the ramp, and then Bernie like slides out of the back of the ambulance and like rides all the way down to the beach where Gwen and Richard are and Larry.
Yeah.
And then like the body just flops over, and then the kid starts burying Bernie again. Yeah. And then that's how it ends.
Oh, you can. Someone's like, "Hey, Bernie, party again at your house?"
Oh yeah, hey,
and people
Bernie.
Are like,
and they're like,
Bernie?
"Wait, what, Bernie?"
And then they run off, and then the kid's like, "Hey, guy, can I bury you again?" And he falls over.
It was a pretty hilarious ending. It was a good one. I really enjoyed it. We are now moving on to the segment where I review the letterbox.
It's time for reviews.
And read reviews that I think are funny.
Review time. Review time. It's time to look at reviews. That's the theme song.
Yep. And for those of you who don't know, Letterboxd is the Goodreads, but for movies.
And if you don't know what Goodreads is, it's just reviews for books for things you've read.
It's like a book review social media.
Book review
platform.
Social media.
So, let's see. So, okay, I rated this film 3.5 stars.
Another 3.5.
Which I don't know why I keep rating them like that.
And apparently, this is one of the better ones.
This was a good one. And my review, I watched this in May, so it's been a month.
Wow.
Yeah. I said, it's a good laugh. Kind of wild, not gonna lie. That was my review.
Great review.
Great review. Okay, so, but on Letterboxd, this has received overall a 3.1.
3.1.
Out of 5. Based on reviews of others. So let's see what people have to say. Well, the top review says, I'm a little concerned at how hard I was laughing at a dead body. That is true. That is true. Someone said, comedy is the most fucked up genre, not gonna lie. The mileage this movie gets out of one joke is incredible. And that is true. Someone says, can't wait to do this with my boss.
Well, maybe
it's a little
don't
dark.
Do that.
Someone said, corpses getting into wacky situations is a pretty good comedy genre. And then someone's review simply just says, what the fuck? What the fuck?
It's a fair reaction.
That is pretty fair.
Again,
it is like that's kind of like the reaction of why would someone ever pitch that?
Yeah. Like what?
Like the
how does
producer
this
probably
movie
like,
get made?
what the fuck? And then they're like, you know what? Let's do it. Someone said, when I die, I hope my friends do a weekend at Bernie's with my body. Interesting. Someone said, yo, what the hell? This was funny and actually pretty good.
Yeah.
What the heck? It's pretty funny. A lot of people are saying how sexy Bernie was, like the dead body. They're like, how can a dead body be so sexy? I was like,
that's
he's supposed to be dead.
I had a budget of 15
because
million.
the dead body,
Wow.
Bernie, was Andrew McCarthy.
No.
Oh. Who's Andrew McCarthy then?
Larry.
Oh. Never mind. Scratch what I said.
Okay.
I don't know anything.
Never mind.
Never mind. A lot of people like this movie.
It's a fun movie.
It's
real
fun.
stupid. It's a movie to turn your brain off to.
Yes, it's very like... It's just like... Just pure funny. Like, yeah, there's nothing to it. Just pure fun.
Just watch and go, ha 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 ha, dead body. But in like the good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just walk down the
If
street.
there is a good way for that. You could, if there even is a good way. But I recommend this movie I would recommend this movie, I think this would be a fun movie to watch with friends, with a bunch of snacks, and some drinks. Or even some not drinks.
Not drinks.
Some puff, if you get what I'm saying. I think people, if you're high,
the
I think this
Laffy
movie...
Taffy.
Yeah. I think you would not stop laughing. So it's a really fun movie. I don't regret watching it. It's definitely one of my favorite ones that you've shown me. So,
whoa! It's a victory for me.
So, yeah, thank you for watching this episode of
Thanks.
Steven Shows Myah Movies. And our next movie will be...
Something. We don't actually know.
There's a list of 50 movies.
Pretty much.
And growing.
Yep.
Of movies that Steven needs to show me. Because I am a movie noob.
Yeah, you don't know anything.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
I need to teach you.
Exactly.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So
this is a public service for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, you guys should check out our next episode.
Or the previous one, if there is one.
Or the previous one. Or
we don't know how these episodes are going.
Just watch any of the episodes that have been placed.
Watch our stuff, please.
Yeah, listen to our stuff.
Listen, because this is audio. Duh.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.